How did I end up here? Lying in your arms, watching city lights and the stars.
With Sora being revealed as the final DLC fighter for Smash Ultimate, the hype train for the, excuse the pun here, Ultimate addition to an amazing series has finally come to an end. Smash Ultimate was first released in December of 2018, and DLC fighters have been releasing for the game ever since January 2019. All but one being a part of the expansion passes known as Fight Passes. In total, adding 12 new fighters to an already massive roster of 69, nice, bringing that total up to 82, and that's just incredible. By the way, no, I didn't do the math wrong. There's a technicality in there, of which we'll get to later. As of now, there is no official fighting video game with a larger roster, and I don't think there will be for a very long time. It's called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for a reason after all. But regarding those DLC fighters, they've somewhat been a major point of contention for the community. This is not exactly news to anyone who's spent any amount of time on social media within the Smash bubble, but even so, it's hard not to bring up when talking about Ultimate's DLC. From claims such as characters being wasted slots and how no one knows who said character is, claims that are entirely based upon ignorance, it's been quite a journey over the past 2.5 years. Everyone's got some opinion on the DLC fighters, whether that be pure contempt in some cases, overwhelming indifference in others, or even the rare but still present joy with one or two. Opinions vary from fighter to fighter. I think it's about time I contribute my own. I know nobody asked, but here I am anyway. One or two of these you might already know given past videos of mine, assuming you're the rare long-time viewer, but in other cases I've either said very little or nothing at all, so we're not exactly going to be treading familiar waters for the entire video. Original content here on the channel of Lunar Odyssey, it's rarer than you think. So, without further ado, and because I would love to talk about Smash in further detail again, let us begin. These are my thoughts on every Smash Ultimate DLC fighter. To say Piranha Plant was a strange inclusion would be an understatement. I mean, it's the Piranha Plant enemy from the Mario series, like, what even? Sorry, even close to 3 years after its reveal as Ultimate's first piece of DLC, I still haven't gotten over how wild of an inclusion Plant was. But anyway, yeah, as I just mentioned, Piranha Plant was Ultimate's first DLC fighter, revealed as a part of Ultimate's final pre-release presentation on November 1st, 2018, alongside Kenny and Cinema. Plant then later released on February 1st, 2019, intended as an incentive to pre-order Ultimate, getting Plant for free if you did so. Of course, you could later buy Plant if you weren't able to pre-order Ultimate, but nevertheless, Piranha Plant marked the first piece of DLC for Smash Ultimate, and what a way to start off too, in hindsight, foreshadowing how crazy the fighter passes would be as a whole. Well, not exactly, that fact won't come into play with the next DLC fighter, but we'll get to him in a few moments. Regardless, as I've mentioned, at the time, I was wilded out by Piranha Plant being an actual playable character in the Super Smash Bros. Series, but I also remember actually being angry? Yeah, I don't know, I was in a very weird mindset at the time, purely because of how out of nowhere of an inclusion that Plant was. Nowadays, however, I just think that Plant's inclusion is hilarious. I don't all consider it a wasted slot or whatever, I don't believe I did at the time, but yeah, I just thought I'd mention that because you gotta look back on your past mistakes sometimes, no matter how small. The fallout, while still an enigma to this day, being one of pure confusion, rather than bitter disdain, again, being hilarious in its own right, the actual experience with Plant as a fighter is where my soul begins to show. As a fighter, Plant is a lot of fun to play, I will admit, having a wacky and surprisingly versatile moveset. It plays similar to a tank, being classified as a heavyweight character, and having mediocre ground mobility. I am a fan of characters with tank playstyles. Bowser, DK, Gandalf, one of the DLC fighters we'll talk about later, but Piranha Plant isn't one that I feel fits into that category. Rather, being what I like to call a sweeper tank, to use Pokemon terminology here. To summarise what I mean by a sweeper tank, something that can get the job done quickly while also being able to take hits. It's really that simple. I guess you could apply that to all the tank-like characters because of how quickly they can get the job done, but where am I going with this? Anyway, to go back to the Salt comment I made, I hate playing against Piranha Plant, but only for a specific reason. Its methods are keep away, a playstyle that, well, maintains distance between the player and you, or vice versa, preventing you, or the other person, from getting in close to actually do anything. The hatred towards this playstyle comes into play a lot more later on with another character, trust me, we'll get to her, but even so, strategies that are centered around stalling out an opponent or running away, if you will, are just, they're not fun. Even if I'm going to lose, I'd rather just settle it in close quarters than just run away. Doesn't waste your time, doesn't waste theirs. My apologies, it's just being on the end of a keepaway strike is just not fun. I'm sure we've all been there. Nevertheless, Piranha Plant was the catalyst for Ultimate's DLC trend, and despite otherwise being a throwaway inclusion in a sense, it was a strong start. But as for the official start of Ultimate's DLC and the first character in the concept that would come to be known as Fight Passes in terms of Ultimate's DLC distribution, that's where things get a little more interesting. Who could have even predicted this, am I right? Joker from Persona 5, just wow. I'm speaking as though I've actually played and absolutely love Persona 5, but I have yet to play it because I've never owned any Sony consoles, so my apologies I guess, but maybe someday, hopefully. Be that as it may, at the time of Joker's reveal at the 2018 Game Awards, I was well aware of the cultural relevance of Persona 5 and how much that game meant to so many people. So even without having actually played Persona 5, I still understand the importance of Joker's inclusion. Okay, I don't mean to big it up at all, but Joker's inclusion at the time was absolutely insane. Keep in mind, prior to Joker's inclusion, the last major third-party character we had for the Smash series was Bayonetta. Now, personally, I love the Bayonetta series, and you can bet I'm super excited for Bayonetta 3 next year. But when compared to Joker, yeah, Bayonetta wasn't as significant in I'd say. As for how Joker plays, I'm not too big of a fan, quite honestly. I feel his attacks lack that kind of impact that I'm looking for. Of course, Joker being a fast-moving character, you kind of expect such a thing. But with that said, there are other fast-moving characters like Pikachu or even Sonic to an extent that I do get a kick out of because of their attacks have that impact I'm looking for. But despite my personal gripe there, I will admit that Joker is fun to play to rush down the enemy, but I'm just not good with him unfortunately. As stated, despite Joker not having any personal impact for me, I can still safely say his inclusion is not one that can be merely glanced over. Hero from the Dragon Quest series is, for sure, a character. I have a rather negative bias here, you can say, but I'll get into that in a moment. But for now, out of the 5 characters in Fight Pass 1, I don't know if this is controversial to say at all, but for me, Hero was/is the least impactful. Might as well get the personal bias out of the way. I'm not a fan of the Dragon Quest series, so my apologies. See, I picked up Dragon Quest XI for the Switch back in 2019, not too long after I finished playing through Astral Chain, and while I was definitely excited to finally give the series a try, I didn't find myself vibing with the game thanks to aspects like what I felt to be a rather unengaging battle system and music that is not objectively bad per se, but not exactly my cup of tea. Trust me, since then I have wanted to give it another try, but my initial intrigue was greatly affected in a negative way due to certain preferences, and it's since turned into what was a passing interest. Nevertheless, I do acknowledge the fact that a lot of people were super happy about Hero's inclusion, and for that I'm happy for them. Just because you're not happy with something doesn't mean you can't be happy for others, you know? I mean, hey, if there's anything hugely positive I can say about Hero's inclusion, is that his announcement trailer is easily one of my favourites. It's genuinely really good with its direction. Specifically, its method of generating anticipation. Considering one of the later DLC characters, you already know this won't be the last time I'll be talking about the announcement trailers. But that aside, Hero, while not a character I'm personally invested in, even to this day, is one whose inclusion does make a lot of sense when you consider the legacy of Dragon Quest and how, well, Smash is a celebration of video games. While I said that from a personal standpoint, Hero was the least impactful DLC character, I've noticed recently that a rather large subset of people argue that Banjo was/is the least impactful, and this is a sentiment that I wholeheartedly disagree with. But once again, this is from a personal standpoint, so take my opinion and thoughts with a pinch of salt again. So, some background first. I remember when Banjo was first revealed back in August of 2019. I was watching the direct with a couple of friends of mine. Before that point, there were rumours circulating that Banjo would be the next DLC character, but, of course, at the time, they were just rumours. Now, as someone who didn't grow up with Banjo Kazooie, it was before my time, but instead played it very much later on in life, let's say around 2017, if I recall correctly, I was still very much aware of Banjo Kazooie's relevance as a platform mascot, and I understood this a whole lot more after playing it because, damn is it is the first one a really good 3D platformer. Not so much the second one, a sentiment that I've seen is commonly shared amongst a lot of people, but nevertheless. Back to the point at hand though, being aware of the rumours, I was excited, and after seeing the trailer play out similar to the one where King K. Rool was revealed, a wonderful little callback honestly, and I saw a Jiggy piece bounce across the screen, I lost it. I remember my excitement not being shared with the other 2 people I was with, and maybe I got a little too excited, but even so, it's a very fond memory of mine, and actually one of the only times I've ever watched a reveal trailer with someone, so yeah, Banjo's reveal holds a special place in my heart for that. And yeah, just damn. Skipping right to the gameplay, I think Banjo is really fun to play. He harkens back to how Smash 64 played, which is so fitting considering how close together they were in terms of release and how, in hindsight, Banjo would have fit perfectly. Sure, that being said, it can be argued that Banjo is maybe a little too simple when compared to other DLC fighters, or even later additions to Smash as a whole that weren't DLC and therefore feels outdated, but I know this is starting to sound like a catchphrase here on this channel. There's charm and simplicity, and honestly, I really like that about Banjo. They really stay true to Banjo's core appeal, if you will, making it feel nostalgic in a way. Banjo's inclusion in Smash has given people, including myself, hope that maybe we'll see a new Banjo Kazooie game someday. I mean, it's been like 30 years since the last Banjo game, period, and almost like 21 years since the release of Banjo Tooie, where the iconic line of "See you in Banjo 3" was spoken, so please Microsoft, pretty please? Other than sounding like an average guy who works in the office, Terry is an inclusion that has a strong legacy behind him, a legacy of which I have covered in my video on the FGC fighters of Smash. A cheap plug, I know, but I'm really proud of that video, so just let me have this please. Anyway, seeing as I've gone into great detail about Terry Bogard in the past, and Sakurai has too in a very consumable video recounting the history of Terry, I'll just skip right to how he plays. So, regarding how Terry plays, he is super fun. He's just as in-depth as the previous FGC fighters, Ryu and Ken, having character-specific touches like always facing the opponent and a large number of potential combos to pull off, while also providing a satisfying sense of gameplay flow when you get it all down. And you know, Terry, as he is in Smash, really captures the essence of your typical 2D fighter, which is yet another great example of the dev's attention to detail and love for every character in Smash Ultimate. It's just also evident in every little crevice. Much like Hero at the time, while I had no personal attachment to Terry, Sakurai's presentation, how Terry plays in Smash, and my future research on the character really made me appreciate Terry's inclusion that much more. Byleth's been pretty impactful, wouldn't you say? A character who's continued to trend all the way up to the announcement for the final DLC character's reveal. It's safe to say Pyra has a pretty negative impact upon the community for being yet another final new character, a series that most feel does not deserve that much representation for various reasons. Now, I reacted to Byleth's reveal and my reactions were negative, you could say. While it did seem that way, looking back on them, I do feel like they were more indifferent than anything. But, if I am to be completely honest with you, since then, I have warmed to Byleth's inclusion. This isn't because I went out of my way to play Fire Emblem 3 Houses, because I have yet to, but because of how I enjoy how they play. I mentioned in the Piranha Plant segment that I enjoy tag characters, and Byleth is one of them. A satisfyingly hard-hitting tag character at that, too. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is that it feels good to play Byleth, and they have easily my favourite down special in the entire game. Amir. It's a super hard hit move with super armor, and its direction can be changed partway through the animation. It's just so good and feels so good to land. But yeah, to say Byleth's had a stranglehold on the Smash community for almost the past 2 years would be quite the understatement. Nowadays, however, I don't think the hatred towards Byleth is warranted, not the slightest. I know we all have our own opinions, but getting so heated on a single character was a bit much, even if we weren't aware that there was going to be a second fire pass at the time. I've seen the question raised about how the reaction would be if Byleth was the final character, period, but I can't answer that obviously, but well, thinking about it, the reaction would probably be worse 100-fold, so never mind, moving on. Min was the first fighter for Fighter Pass 2, and honestly, she was kind of a cold one. Don't get me wrong, I think her inclusion did make sense because of how her character popularity vote was held for ARMS at one point, and Min came out on top, so that's a wise decision. But in terms of what ARMS is, its popularity and Min herself, I'm pretty different in a lot of aspects. I guess the most notable thing about Min is that she's the first Chinese fighter in Smash Bros. So just like how King Kafwan was the first Korean fighter in fighting games in Fatal Fury 2, that's quite an admirable achievement for Min. I remember in my reaction to Min's reveal, I was pretty different, and I still kind of am to Min, but now I also just hate the character in terms of gameplay, I mean. What I mean is, Min doesn't exactly require too much thought to play, and as you can imagine, isn't fun to fight against. Min's simplicity makes her accessible, which does harken back to ARMS, which is a vastly more accessible fighting game, even more so than Smash. So in that regard, she is faithful, but she's also largely unengaging because of that. I know, calling Min simple in a negative way does contradict my way of thinking about simplicity, but this is in a different context. Banjo may be simple as well, but he's actually engaging to play, whereas Min is just too simple for me to enjoy playing her. I'm really sorry, I'm just calling you indifferent to her inclusion, but in hindsight, maybe her being the first was intentional, so our expectations would be completely blown away for the second Fighter Pass 2 character. Where Byleth had a lasting effect on the Smash community, Steve had an immediate one with his reveal breaking Twitter on the day. Steve from Minecraft Steve, just wow, this is still wild to think about. I'm so proud of Hatsune Miku for having one of my creations in Smash. As we all know by this point, Minecraft is the best selling game of all time, so really, with Smash Ultimate being the celebration of gaming, Steve's inclusion makes total sense. But it's still rather far-fetched at the same time. I mean, it's kind of hard to picture such a character in Smash, but hey, here we are. When it came to his reveal trailer, I remember being pretty tired on the day after staying up too excited to sleep knowing a new character would be revealed the next day, don't judge me. But aside, when it got to his trailer and I saw Steve show up on screen, I was at a complete loss for words and pretty much was blank facing the entire time. And when the trailer ended, I simply just went to sleep immediately, so I don't know, I think that's a pretty funny story to recount. But anyway, you know how I just said I hated Min for her gameplay? Well, a lot of people hate Steve for his gameplay, constantly saying how he's unfun to fight against. Now, I can't agree nor disagree because I rarely play online and all, but I don't see Steve as annoying. I think he's hilarious. Like, honestly, look at him. Look at him here standing next to Ridley. He does not fit at all and he looks goddamn hilarious. I actually had a pretty good reaction to see him standing next to a later DLC fighter, but screw structure, here's that reaction.
This looks so weird! Oh my god, that looks so out of place.
So yeah, I think Steve is a hugely entertaining inclusion. Perhaps for the wrong reasons, but either way, I'm glad he's in Smash, even if just for the memes. Oh, and also, I didn't know Minecraft music could go so hard before Steve's inclusion, but apparently it can, so that's another thing I'm thankful for. Easily the most hype-inducing reveal for me up until this point, Sephiroth's reveal trailer was just perfect. Close to my absolute favourite, it did an absolute amazing job of getting you excited and building Sephiroth up to be this unbeatable threat, seeing him just destroy Glee with ease, something the entire roster couldn't do, and just hearing the first few notes of One Winged Angel kicking was just legendary. At the time though, I was talking to friends while watching reveals, so the volume was obviously down pretty low, so I unfortunately didn't get to experience that rush of excitement of hearing the song kicking like so many other people, but even with that said, I still lost my mind ever seeing Sephiroth's silhouette. It's always been said that Smash needs more playable villains, so for one of the most iconic Final Fantasy villain characters and one of the most iconic video game villains period to now be playable in Smash, that's really something. Despite how I feel about Sephiroth's inclusion, which is very positively mind you, I'm not much of a Sephiroth player sadly, I'm just not good, but even so there is just so much I love about it. Such things including his amazing Final Smash and his victory screen, one of them being the hardest victory screen in the entirety of Smash. And hey, it may not be directly associated with Sephiroth, but with his inclusion, we also got an update to Cloud's Final Smash where, in his Advent Children skins, he performs Omni-Slash version 5, which just looks so cool. Hell, you can see it in my intro every time that plays. As a Cloud fan who frequents the Advent Children skins, I really appreciate this. But yeah, overall, Sephiroth was and is amazing and just such an obvious inclusion. Deep breaths, come on now, you can do this. That's great. Pyra, Mythra and Smash, oh my fucking god, yes! My favourite game is now properly represented in Smash and it's just all so good. It's so perfect, it's just... really sorry about that, I just had to get that out there. I reacted similarly to the news in my views on recent gaming news video, but I've never had the chance to properly go off, if you will. And you know, my initial reaction was no different, except rather than shouting with excitement the entire time, I was just overjoyed, and I may or may not have gotten a little lightheaded from being too happy, so... No, I'm not going to apologise for anything, unless I best your endurance just then, of course, but... In which case, yeah, I'm sorry for that. But, yeah, Pyra and Mythra, man. These two are that technicality I mentioned in the intro, being two characters rather than just one. Not only in terms of design, but also in gameplay too. I could go on for hours about Pyra and Mythra and their gameplay, but I'll try to keep it brief. Pyra is a slow but heavy attacker, while Mythra is a faster but comparatively weaker attacker. So the strategy with them is to rush down the opponent as Mythra, and deal enough damage quickly, so you can then switch into Pyra and finish the job. Obviously, you can just stick to either one, or do the strat the opposite way around, but despite how simple the approach may seem, I generally get so much enjoyment out of it. Given how expected this strategy is, one of my favourite little things to do is start at the bell as Pyra and then immediately switch into Mythra to try and throw them off. Even briefly, this can be so much help, and though a simple tactic, I just find it so much fun. Not only that, but their movesets are just perfect. For example, Pyra's level 1 special in XC2, Flame Nova, is her neutral special, and her level 2 special, Providence Revolt, is her up special, and is up there for the best up special in the game. And as for Mythra, her level 2 special in XC2, Photon Edge, is her side special, and just like the best side special in the game, don't at me, and her up special is Ray of Punishment / Chroma Dust, which is her level 1 special in XC2, and her level 2 special in Torna and the Golden Country respectively. Overall, they're just pure fan service for me, and I don't mean their designs. Yeah, I'm guilty of fanboying here, but I can't help it. I'm not sorry. They're two characters that I love from my absolute favourite game of all time, now represented in another of my favourite games, so it's like, how am I not going to take the opportunity to fanboy? And just that trailer, man, animated by the same team behind the cutscenes in XC2, it was all just such a love letter to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a game that always deserved better representation in Smash, and finally got what it deserves with Pyra and Mythra now being playable. I'm still so happy. It doesn't feel real. Much like Terry earlier, I have gone into detail about Kazuya before regarding both his character and his series legacy, so I'll keep this brief once again, but much like Terry again, I feel the same way about Kazuya in terms of his gameplay. Kazuya is just such a satisfying character to learn with deep combat potential, and a genuinely deep moveset that isn't just what it appears on the surface, all eventually come together to form an amazing sense of gameplay flow. And yeah, like, I don't have much to say here without sounding like a broken record, given what I've stated, but if there is one thing I will say again, it's that thanks to Kazuya's reveal trailer, which did such a good job of depicting him as this being of pure malice and evil, he is a character that I'm genuinely intimidated by, something which I guess can be considered an honour, but if ever given the opportunity, I don't want to ask him if he'd consider it an honour. What a way to end off Fighter Pass 2 and Smash Odyssey as a whole, am I right? I'd say the highlights of my reaction to Sora's reveal perfectly captures my thoughts and feelings regarding his inclusion in an unfiltered way. So, look, Sora is just such an amazing inclusion for Smash, one that many thought unlikely because of how Disney is, but yet, somehow, here we are. It's truly something to see him standing beside Mario, the character that Square Enix wanted to compete against, going as far as enlisting the help of Disney, and just that shot at the end of Sora's trailer of him shaking hands with Mario was just... it was really nice. I have yet to play through a Kingdom Hearts game to completion, only really just dipping my toes into KH3, but I understand what Sora's inclusion means, and even though I don't have any personal attachment to Sora or Kingdom Hearts, his inclusion still made me really happy. It's hard to believe that Smash Ultimate's DLC run has come to an end, but what an exciting rollercoaster it's been. At times, it may have been hard to consider myself a Smash fan with everything that's gone on in the community surrounding new characters, you know, the usual stuff, but other times, sharing the excitement of other people and seeing others happy for getting what they wanted as well. It's not an experience I ever want to take for granted. Smash Ultimate is truly the ultimate fighting game, and that title has never been more fitting. So a huge thank you to Sakurai and the entire team behind Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for creating such an amazing experience.